Hi, it's Monday. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you as always by Together 2012. We're a community interest company led by disabled artists and based in the main Paralympic host borough of Newham. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90. I'm artistic director. We're just celebrating, well, about a week past, I think, our first anniversary of being locked down in the house with no visitors, apart from, of course, a couple of weeks ago, the vaccinator. So, a little bit stir crazy, as I'm sure everybody else is as well. So, today, as always, we've got lots of chat and lots of art to take our mind off things. So, with me in my studio is Julie Newman, the chair and activist. We're going to come back to our studio in East London in a minute for some audio description, some more introductions, and more news of what we're going to be covering in the next hour. But first, at the other end of our long virtual wheeled sofa, in that unknown part of East London in the West Midlands, well, I'll leave it to you to introduce yourselves.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to this week. Um, it is Monday already. Um, I'm Robin Surgeoner still, I believe. I am business director at Together 2012. And Jude's correct, we are up here in the very far north of the east of London, known as Sutton Coldfield. Today we are in our studio. We are back to our plain velvet curtains behind us, keeping the warmth in. Although I must say, actually, in the West Midlands today, it is actually quite sunny.
Yeah,
Um,
it's spring in East London as well. It's not often that we have the same weather.
it's not. Um, so just to give you a bit of description about me today, I look like it's a Monday after a long weekend, which means that my silvery grey hair is still silvery grey and slightly straggly, shall we say. I have blue eyes behind no rim black arm glasses. Again, I am wearing the that way. But below that, I am wearing one of my favorite black long sleeved hooded sweatshirts. The hood actually has a grey lining in it with grey ties for the hood. And then on my left breast, which you can just about make out if you are seeing the picture behind the microphone stand, is a logo for Angry Fish Training, and the words Angry Fish Training, Art and Empowerment.
Hi, I'm. I need to cough as well. Hi, I'm Josh Surgeon. I'm one of the hosts of Together Unlocked, and I'm a PhD student as well. I have long blonde hair, some facial hair growth that really needs to be sorted out. I keep saying that, and I still don't change it. I've also got black framed glasses on, and I'm also wearing a long sleeved, kind of very dark blue, royal blue, navy, whatever shade of blue it is, jacket as well that has a lion head, and it says Team GB with the Olympic rings on the left breast.
We've been having a little bit of an Olympic theme going on recently, haven't we? Because I remember Robin had his Team GB and Tokyo last week. And of course, at the weekend, the news came that we were all expecting no international visitors at the 2022, as it is now, Tokyo Paralympics. But we get better pictures on the TV anyway. So I'm Ju Gosling. Today I'm dressed as I am because this morning we had our Together Dance on the Screen Club, which is actually a club that predates lockdown. We decided years ago we would like to make masked dance for the screen. We'll be telling you a bit more about our club's programme as the day goes on. But on the fourth Monday of every month, we have our Dance on Screen Club. And today we were doing a bit of filming, which I will also talk about later. So I'm dressed in a black leather cap. I've got a long sleeved zipped black hoodie, and that's open to show a long sleeved black t shirt, which has got some red writing on, of which I think it says Vivian Westwood and Lee Cooper. I've also got pale olive skin, green eyes behind black plastic glasses, black wrist braces, and silver coloured jewellery. And behind us, you can see just a glimpse of the Together 2012 graffiti banner that you can see on our website and different publications. That's got pictures of all the art forms we cover in a year, from drama, dance, music, art, street art, carnival art, photography and filmmaking, which we will talk about more later, and poetry and spoken word, and much, much more. We've also, between us, got a teddy bear in view. He's a sort of pale beige teddy bear, not terribly big, and he's got a red jumper on that says Norwich Ted on the front in yellow. He's unsuccessful medal bearer for last week's Clockwork Paralympics. Join us on Wednesday for this week's Clockwork Paralympics, where a new teddy bear will be competing for the right to wear a medal. Nonetheless, our teddy bear is still here, taking part, as always, in the International Virtual Bear Hunt. So, last but by no means least, Julie, who are you? What do you look like?
Hi, I'm the chair of Together 2012. I'm wearing a beautifully knitted green top with a little
Hat.
well, sorry, yes, a little hat, a little beanie type hat. I was trying to think of, I cannot find it. There's a little crocheted pin, little flower on it, which is rather lovely. It was sent down from a friend in Scotland, which was a lovely surprise. I'm wearing a grey t-shirt underneath a blue and beige and brown checked shirt with little pockets. It's a lumberjack's t-shirt. Can the little bear not take part in this week's, or does it have to be a different bear?
Oh, would you like the Norwich Ted to stay for another week?
Well, it just seems a bit of a shame that he's been sort of ditched from the team, and it wasn't really his fault, in truth.
Well, I think we might pick that up again on Wednesday. So you finished your audio description, Julie, and yes, thank you very much to Alison Walker, who has been sending down from Scotland the knitted hats that Julie's been sporting. They are to share, but somehow they've all ended up on Julie's head, and I'm not entirely convinced I'm ever going to see them. But I've declared this the year of the hat. Last year was the year of the homemade haircut, and of course, I'm still going to be sporting my self styled hennaed Corona crop for some time to come. I just can't bear to think about it. So, yeah, I've decided to do that bloke thing and wear a hat. And lo and behold, when I was at the Association of Festival Organisers annual conference a few weeks ago, and I was thinking, does it look odd to wear a hat indoors? And just about every single person there was sporting a hat. We will not be among the first to go back to the hairdressers. So, yes, it's definitely going to be watch out for these hats. There's definitely going to be the same hats being worn more than once. So, on Friday, we recommend something for the weekend. And I'm just wondering, guys, whether you followed up any of those things or you've got anything else to recommend.
Well, yeah, I did. I just want to check one thing with you. You said that the Paralympics were now 2022. Was that a slip of the tongue?
I think that was a slip of the tongue.
Okay.
Well,
So,
not knowing what year we're in.
there is the 2022 Winter Paralympics, just to be sure. Okay. So, well, yeah, I mean, I managed to catch a bit of the March Madness Festival that I talked about on Friday. I mean, it was very good. It was very well streamed. Technically, it was great. It all ran smoothly. Wasn't I mean, I just had a busy day, and I kind of got towards listening to it the last 3 hours of the evening, and it wasn't my cup of tea in terms of the music. It was a lot of electronic dance music. There was some good mixing with some kind of jazz stuff in the base of it. Um, but it was real. It was going, and in fact, when we joined in, the person DJ, I suppose, or musician, was a guy who's of a full-time wheelchair user. I would have said anyway. We didn't see his introduction, but it was definitely a disabled artist who was running the gig at that point in time, and he'd actually shared his screen so you could see all the what he was doing to make the beats and the changes and stuff. So that was interesting because then the next couple up um, weren't certainly visually disabled people, shall we say, um, and they just stood behind their decks going like, and just thinking, how can you do that for an hour and a half? But anyway, that's so that was, but we did that. That was good, um, and also I managed, wasn't on the list, but something Tracy and I have been trying to finish watching and ended up kind of rewatching all of it. Is a film called The Midnight Sky, which was just, it was an interesting film. I mean, it's
Is that Netflix?
yeah,
I watched it on.
yeah, we watched it on Netflix, certainly. And George Clooney stars and I think directs it or co-directs it. Um, and it was it was an interesting film. I mean, it's sort of kind of very thought provoking film about self awareness and stuff like that. But um, uh, actually, for me, and actually, I'm looking at some stuff since watching it. There's a young actress. It's her first acting role, certainly on screen, anyway, called Killin. Killin. Obviously it's an Irish name, and it's spelled Caoillin. I sorry, I do apologize for any mispronunciations. And Springle is her surname. Um, and she was actually the movie critics gave. Oh, she got like the Young Performer nomination or award. Um, she's absolutely fantastic. So she's in. It's an hour and 50-minute film, and she's probably on screen for 40% of that time. Um, and in all of that time, she only says, I think, 3 or 4 words and a laugh. Yet she tells the most incredible story of the girl in the. It's because the majority of time when she's on screen, it's her and George Clooney, and then there's another scene in space which is some other people, and I don't want to spoil the film. So it's just those two, and it's a role I've never seen George Clooney in. I mean, he's made he's bearded. They're in kind of the Arctic, and so he's bearded, but it's just a very very different role. And if I hadn't known it was George Clooney, I, I might not have known it was George Clooney, or certainly not until quite a long way in, because and that's what acting's about. I get that, but but for me, I mean, we a lot of our work is with artists who may not actually have voices or traditional voices.
Hi, we're having some continuing problems with the stream, but the sound does seem to be temporarily at least coming back. So, bear with me one
Oh,
second. Sorry about that, guys. None of the buttons are working properly either. I suspect this show may not continue till 4 o'clock, so we'll do our best to give you some edited highlights while it's still working. So, first of all, it's World Water Day. It's a UN day. It takes place every year, and the theme this year is valuing water. So you might think, well, what's that got to do with me, and what's it got to do with an arts show? But it's about everybody valuing water in all the different ways they use it within their culture. So, yes, indeed, we can be incredibly grateful that most of us, as long as we can afford our water rates, have got access to free water. And if we can pay our electricity and gas, we can even get free hot water whenever we want to. But water is also different and important in other ways. I do an awful lot of photography and artwork around water. Some of it's abstract, some of it's landscape, some of it's photographing surfers. Robin, you're a multi-gold medal swimming champion, so presumably water's really important to you.
well, yeah, I mean, both of us as swim coaches, and obviously I still like to get my goggles on every now and again as well. So yeah, I mean, it's an essential part really of our uh, work and leisure lives.
Yeah, diving in without water hurts. Floor's quite hard.
Yes, I think if all of these lockdowns continue much longer, we're going to have synchronized swimming from swim benches. I mean, you've got literally got a swim bench behind you for pattern to practice on, haven't you? And that is swimming out of the water.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of a treadmill for swimming. It's quite cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's too big to actually show you because it's like 3.5 meters long. But essentially, it's like a plinth on an angle with pulleys, and you pull yourself up and down. So you're using your arm muscles to pull your body weight up and down. And the way it's designed, you've got handles, so you can make the strokes as if you are
Swimming.
as if you were in water. Anyway.
So it sounds like you've been valuing water more than ever now you haven't got it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's like us, you know, we love being by the sea. So yeah, I tend to dream about water an awful lot and dream about swimming and sailing and surfing. But I think it's a Philip Larkin poem, and I wish I could remember it. It's a very short poem, but I recommend it to anybody. It's bound to be available on the internet, and it's about making a religion of water. You know, somebody just holding up a glass of water and looking at the sun strike through it and looking at how pure it is and just really thinking about it. So, yes, water is a massive subject for art and poetry and filmmaking. So, this week, not just today, have a think about what water means to you. The UN, we will put a link up in our highlights and links page, which is on our website, www.together2012.org.uk, linked from the main Together Unlocked TV page. So every show we put up the highlights and links. We'll put the link up to the UN site, and there are various ways in which you can add in what your thoughts are on what water means to you and why you value water. So so that's World Water Day. Do you think we dare risk moving on to our regular weekly update before the system lets us down again, Robin? Because I know you had a couple of book related apps. But first, Julie, do you want to talk about the Kindle app? Because lots of people think you've got to have a Kindle to read on Kindle.
No, indeed. When I first got the app, I only had a laptop, a very old laptop as well. So I downloaded it onto my laptop, and I found is it Gutenberg, the archive of older classical type books, covering a massive range, I have to say, and it's free, so I enjoyed that. Then, as I got more and more into it, I realized that I had a choice. I could either spend money on buying books to read, or I could spend money on the Kindle Unlimited subscription, and that's the one I chose. It's $7.99 a month, but it does mean that there's a whole wealth of Kindle books that you can read for free, um, and they've been a complete joy to me. You know, I got a little notice from the Kindle people that I've been reading for 135 days in a row. So I was quite surprised, really. The time goes so quickly, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does when you're not going out. Yes, I mean, I have various Kindles. And indeed, I have to say, the Fire Kindle is the cheapest way that you can get online. And indeed, the same lovely Alison Walker, who knitted the hats, has been experimenting, and you can load Microsoft Teams, you can actually load onto a Kindle. And that device, if you get it on one of their sale days, is about £35-40. So that's really an aside, because what we were going to say is you don't need one of those in order to read Kindle books. They do a free app. You can download it from their website and indeed from the App Store, and it runs on anything. They've got, you know, you name it, they have a Kindle version. So for about 2 years now, I always read my Kindle books on either my phone or my iPad. I don't use my Kindles at all. So the other thing is you can actually save some money by just running the Kindle app. What Julie was referring to with Project Gutenberg is it's a collection of all the books in the world, well, the significant ones, because it would be impossible otherwise, are out of copyright. And if it's out of copyright, then you can just access it through Project Gutenberg. And the Kindle Unlimited books tend to be contemporary ones. But I mean, I've had a small publisher. I am a small publisher. I've had a small publishing company for over 25 years. And what we do is we put everything onto Kindle Unlimited, because it just means that you still get some money in. So I would really recommend to authors. A lot of authors don't tick it because they want people to buy their books, but actually it makes books much, much more accessible. So, Robin, are you ready to talk about your book apps now?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that was kind of quite a good link, really. So the first one is a link actually from that Patton sent through to me, or she was telling me about it. They are fanatic when it comes to books, uh, and either manga or ordinary books. There is a burgeoning collection of both. Um, but there's an app called Reading List Book Log, and essentially it's rather than it being a library as such. I mean, you could put every book you own in it, um, and then you put what you've read, how much you've read of it, where you are, and then you can make a wish list out of the books that you want to read or would like to get if you haven't already got them. And I think what's quite good is that um, one, you can track your own progress because you're putting it in. I mean, it doesn't know where you're at. It's not quite that good, but you can. I mean, and she seems to read about 4 books at the same time, so um, that's works for them. But if you have the right code, and some books will have barcodes or QR codes on, and the app will recognize those, and then it puts in various bits of information about the book. It is, as far as I can see, an iPad and iPhone app, as is the next one if I get to it today. But it is free to purchase. There are in app purchases, although I'm not quite sure what more you need than your list of books. But there you go. That's app one from me today. Reading list. Do you want the other one as well?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, now this one's a bit of a shot into the wind, I think, because I haven't yet tried it. I'm going to buy it. So it's called Cd-Pedia. So a bit like Wikipedia, nicking the kind of half of the name. It is 18.99 and it's a Mac product. But basically, it's a CD cataloging application. And I was desperately trying to find one that was free or less money, and all I did was found ones that are more. But as a musician and a lover of music for a long, long time, I have got many, many, many CDs. I mean, up in the thousands or 1,500 maybe. I don't know. And I've been collecting CDs, I think, since 1986, something like that, when the first lot came out, and I got Brothers in Arms from Dire Straits. And like when you bought a CD player, it was that new. You got 10 CDs with it. It was that was the deal. So I've kind of got all of those still. Um, and sort of, but so over that time I've been, lived at home, been a student, lived at home, been a student, blah blah blah, moved house many times, and despite having alphabetized them, or whatever the word actually is, alphabeticalized them, um
Put them in alphabetical
numerous
order.
times when they've been put in shelves and stuff, they currently aren't.
So, what does the app do?
Okay, so the app, again, it can use it can, if it's got the information on the artwork for the CD, it can scan codes. Otherwise, you can put in keywords and stuff. But basically, it reckons it has every CD in the world that's been kind of publicly released anyway. Um, in a database, and then so what it will then do is, if you get it identifies, it will pull up the track listing, lots of details about the tracks. And interestingly, is if you are on, it says iTunes, but I'm assuming it probably, if you're, also Apple Music would be the same. It tells you if the thing that you're listing is also already in your music library. So if you are inclined to upload all of your material, like we used to do a lot now, not so much these days, because you just kind of go, oh yeah, I'll get that off, and stream it. But when you have got as many CDs as I've got, and you want to go, oh, where's this, and have I got that, and actually, rather than having to sift through a huge bookcase full of CDs that you can't read the titles of, having it in an app it won't help me find it, but at least I know if I got it.
Yeah, I think that sounds fascinating. And I mean, I know these days we spend so much time, as soon as a film comes on, Julie will be on the iPad. Who is that actor? When was this film made? Where did they shoot it? Oh, that looks interesting. I wonder
Well,
what that is. And it makes everything so much more active, doesn't it?
the-
You're actively engaging and
I
you
was going to.
remember much more as a result.
Sorry, I was going to say there. I guess it's by the same people, but there is also something called DVD-Pedia, I think it was. So, and I guess if you if you use the link that I've forwarded for the Cd-Pedia, it then kind of gives the sister products anyway. And it might have been Bookpedia, but again, that was a paid for, so I wouldn't, when I've got a free one for reading list, then I don't need the paid for one. But I think it could be very useful. And there's probably an LP, a vinyl version of it as well.
And I can track all 3 of my vinyls that I've got. hard to keep track of them. It's a big collection.
Well, I think that's really comforting. So it's not just a product for boomers, it's also a product for people who are considerably younger. I don't know if we dare risk going back to what we were talking about before the technical side went so spectacularly wrong. Then we'll be moving on to talk about photography and filmmaking. But I was at a meeting on a Friday night of the Association of Festival Organisers. And I thought I'd report back to, and I have said this before, to anybody who is thinking of buying festival tickets this summer. Obviously, there has been a lot of conflicting information. What was so interesting to hear on Friday is that if you listened to the whole of the press conferences and not just what was reported, all of these people like Leeds and Reading organisers actually said, if there is no cancellation insurance, we cannot go ahead. And the government has been saying since March, well, since January, but we've really clarified it in March, there will be no cancellation insurance. So people like me were sitting there saying, well, why have they advertised the tickets then? Because if there's not going to be any cancellation insurance, why are they saying these festivals are going to go ahead? Aha. It turns out that as part of the government's kind of emergency response to COVID, last summer they reduced VAT on ticket prices to a quarter of what it usually is. So it's usually 20% and it's currently 5%. And that runs out in April. But if you sell your tickets before April, you only have to pay 5% VAT. And if your show is then cancelled and held over till next year, when everybody else will be paying at 20% VAT, those festival organisers will only pay 5%. So what they're hoping to do is A, get a lot of cash in now to keep their to keep their cash flow flowing, and B, to make more profit on the tickets next year to cover the extra costs. It has to be said, the Association of Festival Organisers are a different set of festivals, and we do not do that. No, 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 no. So those festivals have genuinely tended to be cancelled unless they're pretty damn sure they can go ahead. But if you'd rather have your money sitting in your bank account than Festival Republic or Live Nations hang on to that cash, the chances are very, very, very high that those festivals are not going to take place till 2022. But the other interesting thing I did at the weekend, which sort of links in because the Association of Festival Organisers is very much folk festival based, is I did an online course with the English Folk Dance and Song Society about calling in the age of COVID. And calling, for anybody who doesn't know, is the kind of traditional country dancing and other kinds of social dance, square dancing, contra, all sorts of dances where somebody calls out the steps to you. It's generally danced in pairs and it's generally called. And I also run a company with Julie called Folk in Motion, which is the UK's only wheelchair folk dance company. So, again, I'll put the link up for anybody who's interested. But I thought, obviously, we're not dancing at the moment. It would be really interesting to go along. And it was great. There were two people from the States, there were two people from Scotland, there were two people from Cornwall. It couldn't have happened anywhere but on Zoom. And I often find that they're having these interesting courses. And I'm in East London and they're in Northwest London. And it's like an hour's drive each way. So much, much easier than if somebody's at the other end of the country or in the US. But I still can't get to them. So I think the way that events have extended access geographically, I'm very, very hopeful that they'll also be extended in the future. And that will continue because it's really going to benefit people like me who either don't have the energy to go out or there's nobody available to drive me. But they were talking, we had a really interesting, lengthy discussion around gendered calling, because a lot of these dances started as couples, the man and the woman. So in Folk in Motion, we talk about pairs and people take on a shade of colour. So we have dark colours and light colours. And people talked about how, for example, in Scotland, they're dancing with robins and larks, and then somebody talked about taking country dancing into primary schools, and I think they're ice creams and lollipops. But then somebody else came along, and this is all getting far too complicated for me, but I'm going to go and research it, which is what they call positional calling. So instead of you having to remember, am I a man or a woman? Am I a dark colour? Am I a light colour? Which is my left? Which is my right? There's a way of calling out instructions that just says all of the people standing on the edge move into the centre. So it looks much, much more accessible. So that's what I've taken out of it, something that we can get to grips with in terms of developing the company while we're still not able to dance. Because thanks to Arts Council England, Folk in Motion is in the middle of a national development project, which is mostly, but like as I say, not entirely on hold at the moment. So that was Yes, that's what I would have been talking about half an hour ago if we hadn't had the technical problems that we have had. But shall we move on now to talk about filmmaking and possibly a bit of photography? Robin, we saw a film on Friday that you made, which was sorry, I've got all sorts going on out in the street in terms of all sorts of banging and all sorts of dog barking, which is why we use microphones that don't pick those things up, but obviously our ears do. So on Fridays, we finish with some music usually from Robin and usually live. We had the pleasure of a recording by the full band of your song Black Thursday on Friday, but you were just going to tell us a little bit about how you edited that film together.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was in terms of Friday's version of it. Um, it was there is a longer version of it that I did originally, and that worked really, really easily because what I did was I put the sound in and I took all the pictures. So the pictures that make up the video. So the video is a series of stills, and I literally had the audio track in iMovie, and then just took this block of photos, put it in, and it separated them all to be to all kind of transition the same amount of time.
I think it sets 4 seconds is the default time that it's on for, I believe.
However, I realized that nearly 7-minute version of the song was just way too long for the show. And so I thought, well, what do I do? And I consulted Josh Bin by much more kind of movie editing, at least reminded me what I had to do. So I had to shorten the soundtrack. Now that was actually, in the end, I thought I needed to chop it and what they call cut it and then take a bit out and do it. And I didn't. All I need it's very strange the way that some of these editing products work. Whereas if you imagine your audio is a big long strip with the beginning at the left
Beginning.
hand side and the end at the right hand side, what you can do is you can take the right hand side and drag it in towards the beginning, and it doesn't squidge it all up and make it all happen much more quickly. What it does do is it only plays to the point where you've drawn it back to, and that was kind of really good, and I that was a discovery in doing it, and then I was able to then add in a fade. So I got the length of it that I wanted first, and then I thought, well, that's okay. I'll do the same with the pictures. I'll just highlight them all and slide them back. No, it didn't work. Didn't work. And so
Never does it?
no. So then I had to sort of again, it's still not at all difficult. Whereas so each picture, if you clicked on each picture in the stretch, each told you how long its duration was going to be shown for, and it just meant that I had to shorten each picture by about a second and a bit. It's very, absolutely simple to do. It's literally just drag it till about how long you want it, kind of go through and hope that as I got towards the end, it made sense that the pictures, so the line of pictures was slowly receding towards where the sound ended. And I got there, and then I added in a new ends shot. So I used then they have the
Backgrounds and
backgrounds.
titles.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Backgrounds and titles part of iMovies, and I just went to a kind of an end title screen, and just then put in what the song was and the band members, and then that scrolled up as the song finished. And apart from the fact that it says band Mamebas, which means I need to go in, go in and just edit that little bit of a typo. And now I've done it the once in that way. Actually, it would probably take me 10 minutes to do another one. It's one of those things.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about any app. It's understanding that, yeah, all of us find it difficult at the beginning. And I think, we've got quite a few clubs participants who are still very new to the digital world, and they think, oh, Jews always, but, that's, well, I can't quite work it out, but I was online in 92. I've been around a long time, and I still find the new apps difficult, but it's always about knowing that it's difficult, but it will get easier. You might have to try the same thing 3 times, and you'll get a different result on the third. And just being aware that not everything works. I mean, I managed to cut your beautiful fade off on Friday when I brought the credits in. So I thought, oh, I'll pop the fade back in on the editing. And of course, it didn't work. It should have done, put the fade in here, but, sometimes it just doesn't. It's not you, it's them. And yeah, back in the 90s when I actually used to teach web design, that's always my thing. I think if you're not very familiar with some of these apps, don't think it's because you're not familiar with them. You know, the more familiar you'll get, the more kind of you'll realize that they just don't always work all of the time, and they don't always have the most intuitive things happening. And as Robin said, sometimes they'll do one thing with the sound, but they'll behave completely differently when it comes onto the vision. And yeah, I think that is just one of those things.
Yeah.
We were filming this morning because it's our Dance on Screen Club, and as I was beginning to say earlier, very fortuitously, when we set the dance club up, we decided that we were going to make films for the, yeah, films that were made to be seen either on TV or on the cinema or projected on buildings or on your phone or on your computer. And we didn't want to not everybody felt confident about revealing their faces or letting people know who it was. So we traditionally move in masks, not the kind of masks that we're now used to wearing, but we've just swapped. So last month we started doing a bit of improvising on Zoom. Today we did a bit of filming just with 3 or 4 of us, and if I edit it successfully, I will show it on next Monday's show. But we were just doing a piece called Say Hello, Wave Goodbye. So we all put hats on and we all put face masks on just to disguise our faces a bit. And we put on, well, again, it's all part of COVID, isn't it? I said, put on the brightest gloves you've got. And then, of course, one person hasn't lived in their own home for a year, hasn't got any gloves there, so she put marigolds on. Somebody else hadn't got any gloves at all because she'd moved during COVID, so she put marigolds on. So it became completely surreal. What we really wanted to do was just experiment with waving at each other. And that whole Zoom thing where you're trying to attract the, you're at a conference, you're trying to attract the chair's attention. Somebody hasn't got their microphone on. You can't take your microphone off, so you're trying to get somebody else to take it. So we were really just messing around literally with waving. What we're going to do next time is we realised that there was no paper mask that couldn't be improved with a bit of felt tip. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing this out and about because it might well impact on how well it keeps the virus out. But at home, we're all going to play with some paper masks and decorate them. And if anybody at home wants to join in, we would love to see it. If you'd like to join in with the clubs, we'll put a notice up on the highlights and links page after the show. But Noel Guinan is our engagement support worker. He can take your details, and then what happens is you will be sent a Zoom link by Noel probably the day before the club or the Friday before the club. You'll get a reminder text or a reminder phone call to join. Noel will check back if you're having any problems getting onto Zoom, if you're not very familiar with it, for example. Everybody's welcome. Every club is open to all disabled people and whoever you want to bring with you. And we have a social model of disability definition. It's about the barriers and prejudice we experience. We're all perfectly normal. So we include people with learning difficulties, people with physical impairments, people with mental health difficulties, people who are neurodiverse. From absolute beginners to mid-career artists, we believe very strongly that we all have something to teach and we all have something to learn. And that's very much how our club's program runs. We also have our regular weekly art club on a Tuesday and a Friday, and we talk more about that and show the work on a Friday. So if you want to look at the next entry below today's highlights and links, that will have lots more information about the art club and how to join. And on Wednesday we have our phone-based club, which is our pop-up poetry club. Again, this Wednesday, join us at Together Unlocked from 3 to 4, and Julie will be reporting back from the poetry club, and as always we'll be reading the poems. I'm not sure we know what the theme is for this week if you want to join in from home.
Spring,
Ah,
if you remember, because of the change. There was the equinox last weekend, and then the clocks go forward, leap into spring.
so yeah, the clocks go forward on Sunday. So if you'd like to join in from home and you feel brave enough to send us your poems, please do. We would love to hear them. I also just wanted to flag up, because it's on our website, but we don't always perhaps promote it as much as we should. We have a professional development club which I run. That's one-to-one support and occasional group sessions if there are things that everybody wants to talk about. So please feel free to get in touch. Everything we do is entirely free. Thanks very much indeed to Arts Council England, the National Lottery Community Fund, and our sponsors. So if you're feeling you're not sure where to take something, or you had a project, you put it down 12 months ago, you want to restart it, maybe you want to take a project digital, maybe you just want somebody to feed back confidentially about something that you're thinking of doing, then just drop us a line. You can either go through Noel or just send an email to info@together2012.org.uk. Julie, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of filmmaking? We've got another 5 minutes.
I think what you were saying about, well, what you and Robin were saying actually about how frustrating it can be when you think that you've done everything that you should do and there's no obvious way to change it. And I think that that reflects a lot on the fact that we very rarely have confidence in what we're doing. And I think the advice that you gave, which is, you know, sort of like it's not you, is absolutely right. And sometimes just take a deep breath, go away, have a cup of tea, come back to it, and try it again, or go online, do a search. And there's very often these little YouTube helpful things that people have put up with probably exactly the same difficulty that you're having.
Yeah, I certainly find Apple have probably got the worst online manuals in the world, far, far worse than Microsoft. So anything that I want to search for, I use Final Cut Pro, which is the kind of professional version of iMovie. Anything you want to know and you search for it, oh no, 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 you have to go online. And of course, if you actually go through the index, it's there, but you just can't find it in a search. As soon as you go online, there's either a bunch of websites where people are going, oh, for goodness sake, how are you supposed to do this? There's YouTube videos showing you how it's supposed to work. But yeah, sometimes it would just simply won't anyway. And I think it's about you just really have to put the time in. I've been giving talks around virtually around the country over the last 6 weeks for LGBT plus History Month. And I had a pre-recorded section. Well, most of it was pre-recorded, and then we came on to live Q&As. It took me 2 weekends. You know, I did an entire recording one day, I did an entire edit the next day. I spent a week realizing it wasn't going to be good enough, but I had it as a safety copy, and then I took a week out, and then I had to do the whole thing again. And it's still, you know, by the time you've sat watching yourself 7 times, you know, you can really realize where it's a bit creaky. But yeah, I think it is about just understanding that it's never going to be really easy, but it isn't
No,
you.
I think Josh was going to say something.
Yeah, please do, Josh.
Yeah, kind of similar to what you've both said in terms of, you know, if you do run into an issue, someone else has probably had that problem. So there probably will be a YouTube video of somebody doing it, or certainly things that are, I'm gonna say more professional, but things like Final Cut, iMovie, Photoshop, those sorts of things. There'll be forums all over the place with people that use it for their job or use it all the time, that will have come across every, you know, that know, probably know it better than the people that made it, you know, that will be able to point you in the right direction. But also in terms of what you were saying about watching somebody that knows how to use the program and thinking, oh my God, like, how are they so quick? When you start to learn things like iMovie and Final Cut, there are so many things that are like keyboard shortcuts. So things that when you've never used it before, it's like 5 clicks and you've got to go through and got to open a menu to go to a sub menu to go to a thingy to find an item and then do it, and it takes you like 4 steps. Actually, once you learn to use it, those things that you need all the time, it's like 2 keys on a keyboard, and you learn what, you know. And there'll be all sorts of, you know, crib sheets online and people on YouTube showing you, you know, a 12-year-old in Ohio somewhere that like knows it amazingly will be able to show you all of these things. But actually, once you start to learn those things and become familiar with them, your workflow becomes a lot easier, because you start to realize, oh, I need to do this and here. Or if it goes wrong, you go, oh, it's because I did this instead of this. Sometimes it goes wrong and you've got no idea. It still happens to me and stuff. I'm just like, um, I have no idea what I've done or why it's gone wrong or how to fix it. You know, you just have to kind of work the problem on those. But certainly, it's just a familiarization thing, as with
And I
anything.
think, yeah, and I think it can, I mean, it's not much fun if you're under pressure, but I think it can be fun at the same time as anxiety inducing and stressful. And part of that is just the kick of learning something new. You know, maybe it's the fact that I'm coming up to 59 soon, but it's so good for your brain. every time you learn something new, you're getting new neurons, new connections. Yeah, you're enlarging your brain, you're enlarging your capacity, and that can make all of the struggles worth it. Even after the first weekend, you're sitting there looking at a video and just thinking, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. You still learned something, and you still practice things, and yeah, some things became even easier, even as some things were still quite difficult. So yeah, I think our message would always be, you can do it, but you've got to give it a try first. And on that very positive note, we've managed to get to 4 o'clock with only one complete stop for technical problems. We very much hope that won't be the case on Wednesday, and there'll be no stops at all, because we will be back with poems from the Pop-Up Poetry Club. We will have a virtual nature walk with assistance dog Merlot. We've got the Clockwork Paralympics. We've got sport and gaming reports from Josh, and much, much more. So thank you for bearing with us today through our technical problems. Thank you, as always, to Be Live for at least continuing to through to the end of the programme. Thanks to Arts Council England and National Lottery Community Fund for funding us. And we hope you'll join us again on Wednesday.
See you Wednesday. Bye.